Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump. And it's just as quickly as it came, it's leaving, and we're finishing up way too early draft preview for the 2026 draft. Another year coming and gone. But we got to get through this old defensive episode. There's three guys that I really like as players, but there's two guys where I'm like, if the Giants draft him, 10 months from now, and I'm going to be like, man, remember how much Grump we talked about this guy, and how much we were in love with him. So, and they both wear orange jerseys. Grump, how are you?
Doing good. The mountain of boxes that were trying to attack me last time are somewhere, not here.
Yeah, I'm going to say you got rid of your fort.
Yeah, four kick-ass is gone now, so I'm just left with this Giants flag behind me, and some plants. But otherwise, I'm doing great.
There is some boxes back there, though. I see a few. What do we got
They
on those?
they got stuff in them. They got kitchen stuff in them, so they're a little heavy.
I'm going to tweet out your address so people can send you just a bunch of boxes of stuff. And you're not going to be living there for long, so it's not like you got to worry.
Maybe somebody else's problem.
Yeah, just be like, hey, get the boxes in now before Grump moves, and to
I
new
I
address,
should
which I'll also tweet out.
You know what I should do, honestly, before I leave is hide around the apartment in a couple of places some Giants Nation stuff, like little stickers and
I
stuff.
do that in hotels. Like I'll put stickers on top of the fridge and stuff, or like on just places where like whenever they revamp the hotel, they're like, some guy put a Talking Giant sticker here, and then John Boy Media gets sued for $10 million for damage of property. And that's what happens. All right, let's get into this defense. No new Patreons to announce. At least I don't think. If we did, we'll announce them on the next episode. Which I'm excited for the next episode to come out because we got some big training camp dates. Oh, that's another thing. Training camp dates were announced, and got big training camp news. So this because a lot of people are like, oh, people talk about like Grump and the show and stuff. So you're going to be moving to North Carolina, so you're not going to be able to be at training camp. So for training camp, I have a co-host slash like live stream that's going to be doing stuff with me. So we'll announce who that is on Monday's show, and Evan Roberts. But I'm sure Grump will be involved. He'll be on way too early draft preview next year. So, you'll see Grump at the Senior Bowl. But excited for all that. Trying to throw people off. Just leave decisions. That's another. We're talking about the 4th of July mailbag they're recording next week. Somebody needs to ask who's going to be the weatherman. No one's asked that because I actually had this time last year. I had an idea that Danny wasn't going to do it, and we had someone in mind. This year, I legit have no clue. So Danny needs to be ready. Like I'm going to offer it to Danny on the 4th of July mailbag pod, and it's going to be up to him. Like, do you want to do this?
I mean, he can say no, but you'll be holding a gun when you ask.
Yes, and I will shoot my computer screen as a warning shot.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get into this episode of Defensive Draft. I'm excited to see everybody at training camp. I genuinely am. We're going to take over. We're going to have some of your number one spot for Giants training camp coverage. All right, this defensive draft class, we're going to look at 8 guys. 2 guys that I love. I'm going to start with the guy that I took in the preseason mock draft, and that's Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson, 6'3", 315 pounds. Dude, this guy just has a nice combo of size, strength, and athleticism. And you could just tell, like, this is a guy who can get a lot better than what he is, where he's already really good, where they can, if he's, like you see that size, they'll line him up on edge, like similar to the way the Giants would do with Leonard Williams, a few years back. He's a good athlete with get-off transition. He flows to the ball well. He can rush the passer. And it's just like, I think his technique and hand fight it's not bad, but it's like this can improve a lot, right? This can take you to another level as a player. I really like Peter Woods out of Clemson. I think he has the potential to be an all-pro player. And we're talking specific Giants. I just don't – there's nobody that I would rather have from the guys I've watched on the Giants more than Peter Woods, because that would just create a monster up front to put him next to Dexter Lawrence, to have the edge trio that you have, depending on what you're doing with Kayvon Thibodeau at this time next year. I want Peter Woods on the New York Giants. I don't know if I want to lose the amount of games the Giants need to lose to get Peter Woods on the Giants, but ignoring that, I want Peter Woods on the Giants.
Well, let's start with the practicality of it, right? Like just the why would you prioritize this when you have a strength in the defensive line or whatever? And in all honesty, just from, when we do these, I watch a little bit here and there. It's not the same level of like dissection that we do when it comes to draft season, obviously. Um, but in the limited amount that I watched him critically, the closest player comp I can think of is Dexter Lawrence. And you have to start thinking about guys like Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence and what you're going to do when you don't have them anymore, or when they start to fall off, or whatever, or if there's a critical injury that they're not going to be the player that you remember them to be before the injury. It's time to start thinking about that. And in the interim, you have two guys playing next to each other that are really, really good. And the reason I say that he reminds me of Dexter Lawrence in some ways, A, is because he plays at Clemson. B is because he lines up everywhere. I mean, there's a couple plays I saw him drop into coverage. I've seen him line up in a 2-point stance on the edge. He's everywhere. He's a big dude, and you nailed it, man. Like he I wrote this note, and it sounds a little bit more scathing than it really is, but he wins a lot on his natural ability. He is uncommonly fast and agile for a guy his size. He is just about as strong as you expect a guy his size to be, but where he just tends to win on those natural abilities, he can definitely improve his pass rush repertoire and, like, not just, like, fine-tune them and refine them, but he can, like, learn how to string them together and, like, set plays up in the future and things like that. Like, there's a lot of technical improvements there, but I wouldn't call him, like, raw or anything like that.
No, he, like, works hand moves and, he's got good footwork and stuff, but, like, you can see, like, sometimes when we get a guy, like, on his heels and use some power, it's like, "Hey, man, keep using your hands to, keep yourself underneath his pads and don't let that offensive lineman adjust and try and rework and recover." Um, but, like, there's reps of him in space where, he just transitions and just sinks and turns, like, the a thing that I look for in defensive tackles is, like, if your initial move doesn't work, do you have that ability to, through contact, just sink and then start pushing the pocket? And that's something he does have. Again, he has quick and strong hands, like you mentioned, but just needs some more technical um, work. Like he stays square in the run game, benching offensive linemen off him. And I think something that's underrated is how well he like gets through traffic and flows to the ball on some of these outside runs. Where like he's getting through traffic and he's making tackles out on the edges where that's not really his thing. And he fights through double teams. He's got a good anchor. It's again, it is clear to me, and I understand some of the pushback I had on the preseason mock, and obviously it's a preseason mock, so we're not as familiar with players, and we're probably thinking a little more position, and it's like, man, offensive tackle, and I get that, and I took a offensive tackle in the second round. I really love Isaiah World, right? I talked about him, on the offensive episode. That was the guy that I wanted for the Giants the most. And out of these 16 players that we go through in this way too early process, 22 when I include the guys I mocked, Isaiah World is second. I'm excited about the talk about the guy that's third. But I think Peter Woods is a different level of player than World is at that tackle spot, and I understand the worry about that tackle spot. And the thought of, again, putting this guy next to Dexter Lawrence, who's going to be around for a long time, Brian Burns, who's going to be here for another 3 years, probably at minimum, Abdul Carter, whose career is just starting. It's just a perfect way to have one to create a monster in the now, like legitimately create the best D line in football. Like that is a fucking advantage that can win you a Super Bowl. Like if you can have a middle of the road quarterback, and if you have that, it can make you a fucking Super Bowl contender. Like it gets
Just ask Philly.
it gets me so excited just even thinking about that. And then you also have like you have Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, who will, they're going to be going into year 6 through 10 of their career over the next 5 years, and then you have this young duo of Carter and Woods, who, they're getting to their first contracts when those guys are in, their careers are hitting double digits, and years played, and you making a decision on Brian Burns. Hopefully, these guys are here for 6 more years or whatever. But like, it just it's the type of team building that I'm all in on. And let's be real right now, depending on what Darius Alexander is, that second defensive tackle spot may be the weakest starting slot on the Giants roster right now.
Uh, yeah, I guess you could make that argument.
Is it Roy Robertson Harris or a third round defensive tackle?
Yeah, but I mean,
That's a very weak place to put yourself as a roster.
it is. But they kind of have. I wouldn't say that they have like a penciled in like second starter there. I mean, I think it's going to be very game plan specific. But I guess that to your point speaks to the weakness that's there, right? Because if you had somebody that was really really good, then it wouldn't matter who you're playing against or what the game plan is. You would just be your starter. So I think you're right. The only other thing I would really add about Peter Woods, I mean, because I agree with everything you said. I don't really want to repeat what you're saying, but one other thing. It's incredible to me how strong and how high a motor he has. Like, there's times where you can see him, like, shucking through 3 different blockers on a play, powering his way through double teams. This dude is super duper strong already. He's a true sophomore, pretty sure. Um, yeah, I think the sky's the limit with him. He really could be the best defensive tackle in football at one point in his career. He really could.
Putting it all pro, like I think this guy can be all pro. It doesn't feel like a stretch at all. All right, let's talk about the next guy that I fell in love with. And that's Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee, 6 foot, 193 pounds. Now, I'll be a little. I got really pissed off. You know the video of the guy of the black dad who comes into the door. He's like, "Oh shit, what?" He's just like cussing. I had that exact same moment while watching his film because in this way too early draft process, if I fall in love with you, I go follow you on Twitter. I want to follow you on Twitter through the next year. We talk about it. It's the whole, process of falling in love. So I search his name on Twitter. He tore his ACL in March while training, and I got so angry because this dude is so fun to watch. He is fast. He is long. He is great in press. He's smart in zone coverage. He has great change of direction, and you know what, like this guy had to cover Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith this year, right? And Ryan Williams didn't do much of anything against Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. Jeremiah Smith did get him for a touchdown, but it had to be a perfectly placed deep ball on the outside shoulder, else he would have broken it up. Um, it's just corner. I think is sometimes this position we overthink. And it's like just watch them play. Do they get in the hip pocket? Do they make plays on the football? Are they turning their heads? With McCoy, it is so simple. He's so disruptive in press. Uh, he carries the vertical plane really well. He never, gets beat deep. His change of direction to stay tight with every break is awesome. That gets highlighted in curl routes. And then in zone coverage, man, you see him understanding what is going on. He's getting aggressive. He's rerouting guys instead of just playing the zone. Another corner we're going to talk about later who doesn't do these types of things despite his talent. Um, he turns his head. He looks at what the quarterback's doing. He fights through wide receivers' hands. Like the only negative note I had on him is because he is so comfortable in press. There'll be times where he'll go to press up a receiver. The receiver will throw a nice release and he's playing from behind. But even then he recovers well. Um, him tearing his ACL is heartbreaking, especially at the cornerback position. I hope we get to see him play and see what he looks like. Because if like if I mocked Peter Wood because the simulator had the Giants picking 5th. If the Giants are picking like 10th or 11th, I could see Jermod McCoy being like, "That's the guy. Please fall to 10 or 11." If I don't think that Peter Woods is going to fall there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna not disagree with anything you said about Peter Woods, but I think McCoy is my favorite player in this group that we're gonna talk about. And I like defense. I really like secondary players. I really enjoyed watching McCoy play. So the news to me, which I'm actually only learning now as you're saying it, is that he tore his ACL is in fact heartbreaking. I would not anticipate that we're going to see him play. Um, I mean, I guess that means that he is probably going to end up being like a 2027 draft guy. At least there's a possibility of that. But transfer
Comes
from
back
Oregon,
and plays well. I mean, I think he'll come out.
if that's possible.
Right.
Um, dude, I loved watching him play. I'm gonna kind of repeat a couple of things that you said. I think that he has really good strength and balance at the release. There's a couple times you can see he's going up against receivers that are bigger and probably stronger than him. No fear whatsoever. He stands right there in their face. Really, really fluid mover. athletic corner with absolute press man ability. I think that his closing speed on throws is really, really good too. You said it too. It is super instinctive in off man and zone coverage. He really truly understands what's going on in front of him, watching the quarterback's eyes, and what's going on behind him in terms of route combinations and things like that. He really understands the concepts. Smart player. One of the things that I always talk about with outside corners and secondary players in general is how they play in the physical game, right? When you go in to make a tackle, are you flying in at 100 miles an hour, or are you kind of just like absorbing or pushing guys out of bounds? McCoy hits. McCoy hits in the run game. He plays the run really well. He's a physical player. I really enjoyed watching McCoy play. It's a bummer that he tore his ACL, especially in the spring of all times.
Yeah, dude, working out on his own in March now is just like heartbroken. Um, so hopefully he gets healthy because I think like I'm trying to think of like corners from recent years that we've looked at. Like last year, what was the corner class? Um,
I remember we watched Sauce a couple years ago.
I like Sauce more, but like I kind of put him in the same range as I did like Stingley.
I liked Stingley a lot. Did we? I think we did Stingley. I think, yeah, I think I had liked Stingley more than you did.
Yeah, I'm sure we did. Well, I was worried about Stingley's. There was like effort shit with Stingley.
The-
Um,
yes.
but like it was noticeable on tape. And then people talked about that kind of like spooked me on him. Hold on, I'm looking at like corners from the 25 class. Isn't crazy to all this working.
Did we do,
We talked
I
about
think
we
we
were
did
banning-
Keely Ringo once, and we did the other dude.
Oh, Kilo Ringo we hated.
We did Kool-Aid McKinstry, didn't we?
I think we did Kool-Aid. I mean, Keely Ringo we hated.
Mhm.
Where it's like, what the hell's going on here? This guy just seems like 6'2" Georgia. He's being put on this list. Yeah, I guess we looked at a bunch of the corners, but yeah, I'm all in on this guy. Like if he comes back, I understand he has ACL tear and corner and stuff, but if he comes back and plays well, and the last 4 games of the year, then I think he should come out, and I think he'll be a top 15 pick. I think I guess we could look at like what the consensuses are saying right now, which again is counterproductive to the way too early process, but.
Well,
Uh,
injury or not, I like him more than Will Johnson.
Oh,
But I like Will Johnson a lot too.
yeah, and Will Johnson is someone that was being viewed as like a top 5 pick at this time last year. Yeah, I guess Jermod McCoy is 16 on the consensus. Avieon Terrell is 18. So I'm really in on Jermod McCoy. Hopefully he comes back healthy and gets some playing time. Or I guess like you said, he'll come out in the 2027 draft. But I'll want him then as well too. So we'll skip to him on the next year's pod. But I want Jermod McCoy. So I put out a tweet that like through this process, there's 3 guys that I really want. It's Peter Woods, Isaiah World, and Jermod McCoy. Like if like I'm gonna be yelling, I told you, we talked about it back in June if we're announcing their names on our draft live streams in April. All right, next guy is like the consensus top player in the class. And I understand it probably doesn't make a ton of sense for the Giants, but it's Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State, 6 foot, 205 pounds. He was a starter for Bama as a freshman under Saban, and then transferred to Ohio State last year. Guy's versatile. Last year played 43% deep, 38% box, 19% nickel. For Nick Saban, and I think Nick Saban must have done this on purpose. He played 34% box, 33% nickel, 32% deep, essentially a third every snap. So for some reason, I don't know if this happens to you, is you see people hyping a guy up, and it's like, I bet you he's not as good as they're hyping him up to be. And that was Caleb Downs. And then I watched him, and I was like, oh, no, this guy is legitimately good at everything that a safety is. Like, he's good deep, he's good in the box, he's good playing, man coverage, even though maybe did that at Alabama, but Ohio State never really put him in man coverage, so I'm not going to fully judge him on that. But, like, he's good in every area. Like, he's got great speed, he flies around the field. In zone coverage, he's smart. Like, they just don't attack him when he's playing deep at all. Ohio State used him in all types of pre-snap disguises and post-snap rotations, which you don't always see for young safeties. He reads passing concepts, and he's physical, taking on blocks and in the box. Like he truly is just a do-it-all safety.
He's a lot of fun to watch. Safety is one of my favorite positions in football. And the 2 things that stood out the most to me, is both had to do with how smart he appears to be, and that's number one. He makes a decision and he goes. He triggers super quickly and he gets downhill in a hurry. There's no thinking about it. There's no. He is at 100 miles an hour and comes flying in. And when you watch too, when he's coming from super duper deep too, he takes really good angles to the football as well. Like he all around a very high IQ player. And before the snap on each play, another thing that I noticed, super communicative. You can tell that he is in control of the entire secondary, like at all times. He knows what's going on around him at all times. Very much as advertised player. And I agree with you. There are definitely, especially at this time of year when it's like all hopes and dreams and every college football team is, going to the playoff and whatever. There's always like players that get super hyped up and not that they're not good. It's just
I
like,
mean, James Pierce last year. James Pierce last year is the 1-1. We looked at him and we're like, I don't even know if I view this guy as a first rounder.
right. And it happens all the time. This dude, safety doesn't often get picked in like the top 10. It's pretty rare. I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, right? I think he's like even. I know Kyle Hamilton's 6'4" and has been great, but like I think I might like Caleb Downs more than I like Kyle Hamilton.
I do. He reminds me more of Harrison Smith.
Yeah, I don't remember doing. I'm not that old, bro.
Cool.
But I mean, I remember Harrison Smith. Don't get me wrong, or he's still in the fucking NFL. I don't have to remember. I'm saying I wasn't doing draft previews when he came out. Um, with safeties, there's so many different types and different strengths and weaknesses that it's always one of those positions. Like a player could be really good, but it's like, yeah, but he sucks at this, so like, why even sign him? With Downs, he doesn't have that. Like he's legitimately just good in every area. Again, maybe if you put him in man coverage, he's not as good a time, but he hasn't, been put in man coverage. But like when he was in man the games I watched, I thought he looked pretty good. He's got good ball skills. He stays connected fairly well. And he's obviously got the physicality to hang with tight ends. Now, again, this is the way too early draft preview, and we'd like to just go top heavy. I don't foresee the Giants specifically being in a scenario where they're taking a safety in the top 10. I think Tyler Newman would have to be like god awful for you to really even consider that. And I know I preach best player available and stuff. So if the Giants are picking ninth and he's just a tier above guys, then yeah, I will advocate for it. But I just don't see it happening regardless. But I think somebody's going to get a good player from Caleb Downs in the top 10 next year.
100%. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. How bad would Tyler Newman have to be to get another safety in the draft like this? He'd have to be horrendous. And I know that he's not really been like a huge,
It's not realistic for the Giants.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. It's not. All right, so let's get into the range. We just talked about three guys. Now let's talk about where it's a little more difficult. These guys could be top 15 picks, or they could be guys that slide into the second round possibly, or even don't even, get picked in the second round. But I'm going to talk about someone interesting, and that is Benjamin Button. No, Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker out of Texas, 6'3", 237 pounds. Led the SEC with 17 tackles for a loss last year. He had 113 total, 8 sacks. I think linebacker is always so hard to judge, and I think it's the one that the preseason boards gets the most wrong, where they'll be like, hey, first-round guy doesn't get drafted. I mean, Jamon Dumas, who was the Georgia guy transferred. There was one guy from Alabama like 4 or 5 years ago. He didn't even get drafted. I think something Moses, number 32. I forget.
It's going to kill me. Keep talking. I'm going to try and look it up.
Yeah, look it up. But Hill is not someone who I'm like fully in love with, but I think he could be close because he is athletic, he's strong, and he thrives sideline to sideline. Like he closes, on you quick in the open field. He takes angles away. I think he uses his hands fairly well. He's got lateral movement. But there's and again, anytime you're running outside the tackles, Hill is eliminating the angles. He's beating offensive linemen to the punch, and he's creating tackles for a loss. I mean, I think all 4 tackles for a loss he had against Oklahoma were on outside runs, whether it was toss or outside zone. And I think he does a good job in between the tackle box. He forces fumbles. I don't know if he has the processing to be a step ahead, where I don't see him making a ton of plays at the line of scrimmage on your basic runs. It's really those outside ones where his athleticism can shine. Also, I think his coverage instincts are severely lacking, which again I think those go hand in hand. Guys just throw past his head at will. It's just he gets to a spot and that's it. So it's like, how much can you develop him? Because he can be a great coverage linebacker. He's got perfect linebacker size. He's got the athleticism. So with Hale, it's a really talented guy who plays really well. He's not lost on the field. I just don't see him be having right now. I don't see him as someone who has like that mental acumen that puts him a step ahead, and that matters for if you're going to be a number one linebacker. You can have a career like Patrick Queen, where you're the number two behind a good linebacker, and you're just in a play to be athletic. But if you're the number one, you might struggle, and that's what I view Anthony Hill Jr. right now. Obviously, he's got a whole another year of college ball. Was it more? It's not Morgan Moses. What's his first name?
No, I can't find it, man. I'm looking. Morgan Moses is on the page.
Yeah, he's an offensive lineman.
Dylan Moses?
This Alabama. Yes, that's it. The UDFA of the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Dylan Moses. Went undrafted.
So I first of all, Anthony Hill is super productive, and I hate to like take away from that always. Like 113 tackles is insane. 8 sacks is nuts. 4 forced fumbles, interception all in 1 year. Like everything statistically says that he's really good. But I also think that it's easy. There are certain positions that can be stat padded, especially when you're on a really, really good team in general. And I just found watching him to be a little bit weird. Um, he kind of picks his way through traffic without really using his hands that much. Like he I don't really know how to describe it because I've never really seen someone be so effective doing it like this, but he just kind of is like quick enough in small spaces to just kind of dart around guys and just pick his way through things and
Yeah.
accumulate tackles and sacks. And that's cool. I'm not trying to take away from that. I just don't know if that's going to keep working for him.
Yeah.
Um,
We see that with linebackers all the time going from the college to the NFL. It really is like two different positions, honestly.
yeah, and I would say that he's even like quotes like sneaky fast because there's a lot of times where you see like the ball snap, like he's super flat footed, but he can get in the backfield and get into the play very quickly. But again, like at the NFL level, like every moment wasted is too much time. So I don't know, I don't wanna make this sound
I think
super
he's not
nit
even sneaky fast. He is fast. I just don't know if he always plays.
that's what I'm saying. He's just never
It's just can be a step behind. But again, you get him from sideline to sideline. He's there, dude. Like again, go watch the Oklahoma game. He had 4 tackles for a loss. Those were all on outside runs by diagnosing the play and beating offensive linemen and tight ends or whoever to the spot. You put him in on the line of scrimmage, like he's got good lateral movement. He can bend. Like you can give him like he has pass rush juice. He didn't get 8 sacks just on accident. Um, it's not like an Abdul Carter or Micah Parsons situation where it's like line him up at edge. It's got to be the right situation. But like he does have that. It's not making enough big plays in between the tackle box and the fact that in coverage, he is simply just going to the spot they tell him to go, and quarterbacks have no fear just throwing right behind his head.
Oh, yeah, and there's plenty of evidence in it. It's not like I watched, like, 100 games, you know what I mean? I watched, like, 2 games, and it happened in both games. Um, I just would like to see a little bit more physicality out of a linebacker. Like, there's not really a ton of, like, plays of him just, like, blowing up a blocker. I don't know if there's any. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't see, like, a Ray Lewis style of physicality from him in terms of, a
Yeah.
down by down basis. You just don't. And it worries me a little bit.
I will say I like him more than the next linebacker we're going to talk about. And that's C.J. Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, 6'1", 235. Another fast guy. I think he's strong, and I think he has potential. But he doesn't have the sideline plays that Anthony Hill from Texas has. And I think we might just be looking at like, oh, fast, athletic guy from Georgia. Let's put him in the preseason, the way too early mock drafts. He had 76 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss. I hate that number, 1 interception. I do think he's legit good in coverage now, right? He does have that. Like he's sticky in man coverage. I think his zone instincts show up. I just think in the run game, he doesn't really do much. Like, he's strong for his size, right? Like, he's got strong shoulders. Like, he doesn't get bullied by offensive linemen. He's the one who stays square and can open up the shoulders, but he's not really taking advantage of that speed and strength. And if you're not playing ahead with that at the 6'1", no matter how strong you are, offensive linemen are just going to get to their spots on you. And I just didn't. There's just a lack of play diagnosis to get downhill and be a playmaker. Where with Anthony Hill, it's like I don't see it enough. CJ Allen, it's like it's kind of never there.
Yeah, one of the it's pretty obvious that he's an athletic guy, especially when he's moving in space, but you really don't see the speed unless he is triggering to go downhill. Once he's downhill, it's super obvious how fast he is. It just doesn't happen as often as I'd like. I'd like him to trigger more often. It almost seems like I don't know if he's just not reading reacting or he's still unsure or whatever it is. I mean, and the other thing is like he just doesn't really seem to shrug blockers with authority, shed blockers with authority. He kind of just like shrugs them off or kind of gets around. It's still effective, but again, like we're moving to the next level. This is a huge jump. I need to see that get a little bit better. I absolutely like Anthony Hill more than CJ Allen. He seems a little bit
Yeah,
out
it's
of
not even
control at
close to me
times
either.
too. No, the other thing too, like when he's playing really fast, when he is downhill, he can overrun plays too. You can see he's like a little bit out of control at times.
Anthony Hill, I think, is someone who belongs in these, preseason top
Sure.
25 lists. Um, I just don't think that's the case with CJ Allen. I think he's again he gets the benefit. I know Georgia didn't have their best crop of defensive tackles this year, but like that Georgia scheme is built to keep their linebackers clean, and it can fool you, right? Like I've been fooled by Georgia linebackers before because of how much the defensive line kept them clean and the way they use those 5-man fronts, bear front. Shout out, the Seahawks preview from a few years ago, or the tight front. Um, and it's just like I gotta see a lot from you for me to like fall in love with the Georgia linebackers again. But I will say this: I think he's good in coverage. Like he is, they use him in man coverage quite a bit. They have him playing deep. I think he's got a good zone instinct. So there's at least that. So it's not Allen can get there. Like he's talented, and you do see some of that stuff. So I could be changing my tune on him come a year from now. Just right now I'm not big on him.
No, and I think that a lot of times linebackers tend to slip in the draft anyway. Like as of right now, I could easily see him being like a round 3 player. That would not shock me at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if out of the 8 guys we're talking about, if you had to ask me which one gets drafted the lowest, or not even, leaving entering the draft, it's probably CJ Allen. Even though I have some of my worries with Avieon Terrell, like his talent is undeniable, and corners will get drafted high because of that talent. Um, so I think CJ Allen would be on my easy bet on that. The next guy we're gonna talk about is Rueben Bain, edge out of Miami. We only wanted to do one edge, and I was like, all right, let's make him not be like a top 5 guy or projected top 5 guy, and let's let him be like got some size to him. And that is Ruben Bain. I mean, he is thick with 3 Z's, 6'3", 275 pounds. You know what Ruben Bain is? He's what Shamar Stewart truthers say Shamar Stewart is. Like, he's a good two-way player, but he needs to make another step to be like that guy as a pass rusher, to be a Jared Verse type of pass rusher. But he is big, strong, athletic. Miami would move him into a free technique quite a bit, but even though he is an edge at the end of the day, he's not like he's somebody you're going to move in a 4-3 or something. Um, who is a good athlete and strong as shit. Like you can see, it's like with him, it's like, hey, he has a plan on what he's doing, which I didn't think Shamar Stewart didn't have a plan. Um, is he the most reactive rusher? No, he's not. Right? You see him having to think through moves when the first one doesn't work always. Right? In the run game, it is you know a strike, extend, shed, right? It's a very much a 1, 2, 3 process instead of it all being one thing the way, some guys are. Um, but man, he is strong in the run game. He sets a nice edge. He sheds guys consistently. He's got good eyes for it, right? To pull, fall pulling guards. And then as a pass rusher, it's like, all right, he can use his get off and at strength to get wins, right? He's got a plan with what he's doing. I don't think he's going to come in the NFL. If he came out this year, I think he'd struggle as a pass rusher against good guys. But there's definitely something there with Rueben Bain out of Miami.
Yeah, so highly productive in 2023, 7.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and a pass breakup. This year, 3.5 sacks, but he missed like all of September. The first drive, I think, of the season, he got injured, so he missed all of that game, and I believe the 2 following games. So I don't think he played until October.
Yeah, 5 less games. He dropped 4 sacks and then 7 tackles for a loss. So, like, he was really productive as a freshman.
Oh, yeah. Super explosive off of the snap, really disruptive no matter where they line him up. He has the strength. What I think is interesting and cool is that he has the strength to win both outside and inside. Like, you can see when he's on the inside, the strength, he's not just winning because of, like, quickness and agility on more lumbering interior offensive linemen. He does have the strength to win there. He has some pretty decent speed. I would say the bend around the edge is just okay. Um but he does have some good pass rush moves. I think that he can still develop them and set up pass rush moves more. But I mean, that's really common for guys to have to improve on at this point. I'll ask you this though. He's listed as 6'3", 275. Most of the time, when I look at college height numbers, I shave at least 1 inch off. So let's just say he's 6'2". Does that worry you on the edge?
No, because he's I don't know what his exact weight is, but he is big.
He's a big.
And
He's a big.
you could tell it's muscle, right? Like, I think Shamar Stewart is bigger than him. I don't need to fucking wait for the combine next year to see that. In fact, let me look at Shamar Stewart's I think Shamar Stewart might even be bigger. Combine might be bigger than what he's listed. Did Shamar hit 6'4"? Oh, Shamar is 6'5".
Yeah.
Sheesh. Yeah. So Shamar's bigger than him, as I just fucking proved, Bobby. So no, not because of the way he plays, because he's so strong. Again, with Rueben Bain, the question is how good of a pass rusher is he going to be in the NFL? It's not going to be he's not going to be as zero as a pass rusher, but he can be. I can see him being a very mid pass rusher and good run defender. Where when I look at Shamar, I was like, I don't think that guy's going to be good. I just think he's going to be such a negative in the pass rush that despite his run game, he's not going to be a player that you're really that happy with picking 15th overall. No,
Yeah. Totally agree.
I understand fans and draft media or whatever can underrate run defense and overrate pass rush when it comes to the edge position or defensive end. But Shamar, you can't give me you just can't give me 4.5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss in 3 years and tell me you're going to be sick in the NFL. Don't worry. Like with Rueben Bain, you don't have that. It's just I can see him being a very middle of the road pass rusher. I can also see it exploding too. Like he could be like if he figures out a way to do it, but it's just he's not like you said. I had the same note. Solid bend, but not the most fluid mover. Like he is a good athlete. He's not a great athlete. He's a good athlete. Pass rushing is not the most natural thing to him, but he does rush with a plan. He's got good get off. He's got excellent strength, and in the run game, he is consistently really good.
Yeah, when you say, like, you could see him, like, exploding, you mean, like, this year in college or at the NFL level?
Well, this year, like again,
Yeah, okay.
advance as a pass rusher to maybe become like a Jared Verse type, right? Where I love Jared Verse, right? Was my number one defensive player in that draft, and he went out and proved it. Um, Bain can maybe learn from Jared Verse to do. I don't think he's gonna be as good a pass rusher as Jared Verse, but like I'm saying, try and learn from that. Lean into the power and less hand moves and stuff. And then if you consistently can win with power, that'll set up some of the hand moves and shit. Or working lateral, which again he can do because he's got the strength to, even if he's not winning as fast laterally as other guys, he's got enough to just, if he gets a step, he's got the strength to rip through that inside shoulder of a tackle where other guys can get stalled out on that stuff. So again, I don't think Rueben Bain is like, here we go, top 5, 8 pick, but I think he's solidly going to be like a first round guy. All right, 2 more guys left. We got Avieon Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson, 5'11", 180, might be 5'10", 175. We'll see. Good stats, right? Gave a 50% completion percentage, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 10 pass breakups. There's things I like about Terrell. He is very athletic. When he's with the guy, he stays with the guy. I think he's pretty feisty in the running game. Right? McCoy, Terrell's, McCoy's bigger and probably stronger too. Terrell is, I think, better in the run game. He forced 3 fumbles. You could just see the feistiness he brings to the run game. But I think Terrell is a lot less developed as a cover corner, right? And when it's in man coverage, I think he's overly influenced by, nuances from receivers, whether it's at the top of the route, or at the release. And then his zone coverage, I kind of hate him, where he just kind of drops and then lets stuff happen underneath him. There was a couple times where he's in off coverage and he let a South Carolina wide receiver just run right past him. Like you gotta like see what these guys are doing and be ahead of the game. You can't just react. You gotta read and react. And I think he's pretty grabby down the field. He had 7 penalties last year, but he is extremely talented. Um, Maybe he's a guy who moves to nickel corner. And I'd like to see him develop as a cover corner because right now I think he can be pretty raw, but he's got some things. He's got a lot of things that you like too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's pretty close to me between him and CJ Allen, who not in terms of where I think they'll be, but how much I like them as players right now. And I think that Terrell has a lot that he can get better at, right? Like, but I wondered the same thing you kind of alluded to there, like maybe he'll wind up in the slot. I didn't feel super great about Drew Phillips either. At the Senior Bowl, he flashed a little bit, and then you watch his tape, and you're like, I don't know, man. Um, I think that Terrell might end up being in that same kind of thing. My biggest problem with him is exactly what you said, which is, can be grabby, especially when he gets a little lost back there. Like you said, reads and sometimes doesn't react, things like that. Um, but there are a lot of things I do like about him, and I think at the catch point, he's really fun to watch. I mean, he racked up a lot of stats. 58 tackles. I think you said 10 pass breakups. I think he has listed 12 passes defended. It doesn't matter. The point is it's a lot. Um, and even when he's playing up to bigger receivers, bigger and what looks like stronger receivers, again, no fear and at the catch point, really, really competitive. I do think that he's really active in the run game, but I do think also that he's not. Again, I'm going to do this like Drew Phillips comparison a little bit, but
Thought similar thing, so I don't think you're off base.
yeah, I Drew Phillips comes in like a hammer, even if he is a little bit smaller than the guys he's trying to hit at times. I think that Terrell can get run over a little bit. He's a little bit lighter, but he's definitely willing and, he'll get up in the mix. He's not just gonna be around the tackle. He'll be involved. So, again, I would say that this is a big year for Terrell. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, again, really talented. I think he's got all the ability to be a first round pick. Right now in the draft, I wouldn't have him as that. Um, but yeah, he's talented. I think a move to nickel. It's you bring up the Drew Phillips thing, and I hate to compare everything to the Giants, but I had very similar where it's like your outside corner film I may not like, but I think what you do can translate to nickel really well. Now, if you're having to move in the nickel, he's not someone you're taking in the top 20 or whatever, right? Like it's a starting position, but there's a reason why those guys don't play on the outside. It's like they struggle with things that you need outside corners. Outside corners are more important than nickel corners. Even though nickel corners are very important, it's more important in the run game than outside corners. But that's kind of where I'm at with Terrell. So Grump, we're gonna finish off with Caleb Banks. I'm gonna let you hit me with some Caleb Banks talk.
I actually really liked Caleb Banks. So first of all, 6'6", 325 pounds. That's what I found him listed at. Just watching him, that might be the leanest 325 pounds I've ever seen in my life. Maybe I'm a little nuts, but that's the way it looked to me. But if those are the numbers, great length and size. This is a transfer from Louisville to Florida. Um, Pretty productive, 21 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass break, a pass defended. Florida had a defense that sort of figured it out halfway through the year last year. I would encourage people to watch the Old Miss tape. He was ridiculous in that game. Super duper active, violent hands, heavy punches. He just absolutely wreaked havoc no matter where they lined him up. They ran a lot of stunts in that game, and he just like it was like a tornado ripping through the offensive line. Jackson Dart was under pressure from him specifically right from the beginning of the game, and it didn't stop. Super high motor player. He has a really strong presence in the run game. I think that his best pass rush comes from the inside, but he is moved around on the outside, moved into the inside, versatile all over the line. And he also displayed a variety of different pass rush moves. There's a lot of people that think that this, like we were just saying with Terrell, this is a huge year for Caleb Banks. Again, limited amount of, you know, tape watching for this episode. Didn't go through every single Florida game from last year, but in the games that I watched, you can see like if he can do this every game, we're talking about a first round player for sure. And I like the size at 6'6". That's incredible wingspan and length, and it allows him to be more versatile all over the line as well, even at the next level. Um, I really would encourage people if you want to get hyped and see where the trajectory could be for him, watch that Florida Ole Miss game from last year.
Yeah, he wreaked havoc in that game. And on a Florida D line that had Cam Jackson, who was like a fifth round pick, someone we talked about a lot in the draft process last year. Desmond Watson, the 470-pound guy that everyone every time he was on TV got posted. Warren Sapp's son, Tyleek Sapp. I think Caleb Banks is the guy who was the best on that defensive line for them last year. And he wears that number 88 jersey, so it really pops off for you. So, all right, that's a defensive draft preview. Are you sad that it's over?
I am. I love these previews. I love getting hyped for things, and I love defense. So it's kind of a bummer, but I don't know. I'll be talking about him on Twitter on Saturdays.
No, don't. Yeah, that's what you're definitely gonna be getting some stuff on Saturdays. It is sad, but it also gets me a little excited because then it's like, all right, this is like 3 weeks away from training camp. I mean, just next week is the 4th of July mailbag, so make sure you get your questions in there. I think we're recording that on. Were we recording that on Monday or Tuesday?
You told me 7-1.
Okay, so that's Tuesday. We're not gonna put it out till Thursday, but that's being recorded on Tuesday. It'll be me, you, Cranky, and Danny King. So make sure to go on the Twitter account, find that post asking for the mailbag questions and get in on it. Again, it's non-Giants football questions. So do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for the training camp dates are out, which really got me excited. I've got all these ideas. So I was thinking about doing a wheel where you come up to our setup and you spin a wheel and like say it has 16 slots on it, like 10 of them being like a sticker, and then having like one that's a t-shirt, one's a hat, one is a body armor or something like that.
I think it's a great idea. It's fun. But you should make people answer a trivia. You should make them answer a trivia question too.
Ooh, make it really easy trivia question. And we'll film them.
There you go.
We'll turn it into short form content. That's where the people it's the people like these days. It is the short form content. So I'm so excited for training camp, dude. And I feel like I'm rubbing it in your face a little bit because you're not gonna be able to go.
You really are. I would say that the most sad I've gotten about the whole thing has been just as the seasons approached and like talking about like the parking lot tailgates and training camp, and you're like so excited to see everybody, and like everybody else being like, "Oh, which games are you going to? I can't wait." I'm like sitting back there like, I don't know which games I'm going to this year.
It's never too late to change to change your decision.
To unpack all these boxes.
Yeah. You just live out of the boxes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could.
So
Steal that van. I'll live in that.
we could steal it. Now it's got a big blitzball thing on it now, so it's not as easy to steal as it was before. But we definitely could steal that van.
Oh, I'm game. I'll live anywhere.
Yeah. Put it in a van down. I did Facebook Marketplace for a bus today, and my wife was like, "Stop. Just
You know what though? I think keep that goal out there. You know what I mean? One day, because if it comes to that, I would say let's not even fly to the Senior Bowl in the future. If that ever comes,
We're not
through,
flying this. Oh, well, you'll have to fly, but I'm driving. We'll fly you in. But all right, we feel like we're just giving away too many secrets to the people.
Yeah.
But you know what? If this will be the least watched episode of the summer. It's just the way it is. It's the defensive 2026 draft preview. So if you're listening to this point, like you get to hear all that stuff. And now I'm going to tell you my true thoughts on the second round of the NBA draft. I want to go watch it. The Nets draft class sucked. All right, we'll see you guys on Monday. Special episode on Monday. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.